Welcome to Sell Like You, the ultimate sales podcast that will teach you how to make sales your superpower, transform your mindset, and in doing so, explode your sales beyond your wildest dreams. I'm Harriet Meller, and over the last 17 years, I've helped hundreds of top companies around the world, including my own, make more money and qualify more leads using simple strategies that work. In this podcast, you'll learn how I generated over 10 million in annual sales, along with the sales techniques, processes, and tools that will work for you to generate more dream-aligned clients and scale your business beyond what you thought was possible. If you're sick of the boring, outdated, and pushy sales tactics of the past, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Now, recently, we've been talking a lot about building conversation pipelines, and I thought I'd bring this onto the podcast today because building a conversation pipeline is different to building a opportunity pipeline or a deal pipeline. And so building a conversation pipeline, especially in those early days of being a business development manager, being a BDR, an SDR, is certainly a challenge. It certainly separates the weak from the strong at that point. And so if you are in that role, then you know exactly what I mean. If you've been there, you know exactly what I mean. And so if we want to build a strong pipeline of deals and opportunities and generate meetings, we need to have a conversation pipeline because that's what's going to help us keep moving forward and keep progressing. So a conversation pipeline is something that you're able to build upon so that if I reach out to, let's choose the lead in the system, leads in the CRM, we go into the CRM, we grab that detail out, we reach out to John, and we identify that there's nothing there right now for us to support him with. However, he's currently with this existing provider and they review their managed service provider every 3 years as part of the contract. The next one is in 18 months. Now, using that scenario is that we will then build out an activity, which is what's going to happen next. So there's a couple of things that we need to do to make this a valid conversation pipeline. Now, firstly, we want to make sure that our CRM is up to date. Very important. One of the things that was drummed into me or beaten into me very early on was that we always want to leave our lead as we go into the CRM. We always want to leave it better than when we came into it. Now, sometimes that's really challenging if you've added in lots of content and you've gone in, you're like, I've got nothing else to add. I've got the phone number, I've got the website, I've got the contact details, I've got 9 other people, I've got their LinkedIn profiles and so on and so forth. It may just be spelling errors. It may be finding a link relevant to the industry news that you can add in that you can refer back to. And so it becomes a pipeline of conversation when you add an activity for something to happen next. So in the scenario of John currently has a provider reviewing it in 18 months, doesn't have anything else for you to speak to and was very abrupt and wanted you off the phone. Then at that point, we would then set a reminder in our activities lead, in our activities CRM or CRM activities link. So in Pipedrive, we have an activities tab. I know the same thing in HubSpot and Salesforce. So we would go in, we would add an activity to follow up. If they've said 18 months, I would then set something maybe around 15 months. And I would then check in and get more specifics based on that very, very, brief bit of information. And so from there, then we don't just want to set that and forget it and move on and it will prompt us again in, 15 months. What we then want to do is connect with John on LinkedIn if you can find him, follow his business, look at anybody else within the business that you should follow or other types of industries that you could maybe connect with. Look at the groups that he is associated to. You could then send an email, say, hey, John, it's great to briefly chat to you just now. Appreciate you're already being supported by ABC Services. I've popped a little reminder in to get in touch with you in month whatever or in about 18 months. And I just thought I'd pop you this quick note so you've got my details. You may want to add if there's something you want to share with them. It might be a link, a recording, a video. It depends on how much value or collateral you've already got created within the business. And so from there, we then have got our activity, we've communicated, we've connected. Now we need to find ways to engage, to keep relevant, to keep front of mind over the next 15 months. And so my recommendation is that you add in a point every 3 months that just is a little reminder. And so what you can add in there is you could add in even a list of everything that you've come up against in that conversation, everything you know about that industry, everything you know about the competition, if that's the case. And so for us, it means then that we never get to that conversation and go, there's nothing, they're dead to me, because I've been doing this a long time. And so if you're listening to this and you have also, then you will know that it can sometimes take 2 years. It can sometimes take longer than that to convert a cold opportunity, a cold prospect, into somebody that you can work with and support and make a difference to. Now, it's not always going to be the case. Now, each business, each industry, each offering within our industry is very different. And so the lead times will vary. But if we can then add in that relevant information, it means that you're never wasting a phone call. You're never wasting an outreach method, whether it be email, whether it be LinkedIn. And so what we're doing is we're covering all bases. We're running a collaborative outreach approach, which is more successful than just choosing one vertical and going hard. And so it means then when we get information such as it's not quite the right time, but we've gathered a little bit more information, we can pop it then back into our CRM and then schedule a reminder with scheduled components in between. Now, if they say, look, you've called me, it's great, opportunistic time. I'm not free right now, but we are currently in our review process. Feel free to give me a call back, or if you want to set something up, happy to chat, in a few weeks. We can do the same thing. We can still schedule the call, but instead of then having something 3 months out because it's within that 3 months, is think maybe about adding some value within 48 hours. Something that's relevant to them, something that's relevant to maybe what you uncovered, something that's relevant to their industry. And you get to choose what that looks like. Also to note here that it doesn't always have to be collateral that you or the business that you work for has created. It could be a podcast. It could be an article. It could be a post on LinkedIn that's super relevant to a conversation that you've had. And so we want to then ensure that we are always building out our pipeline of conversations, because when we come to 6, 9, 12 months, we have that beautifully curated list of activities that we have just naturally, organically created. It's not a pipeline of opportunities. There's no revenue associated to it because we don't know enough yet, unless you do know enough. But in this example, we don't know enough yet. And so we've put the activity in. We've then built out our next steps. So it means then that we don't have to think about John again. It will come up for me in an automated alert. And then also know, and something that I think is really powerful, is that we will know more about everything in the next 3 months than what we know today. And so what I mean by that is that in the next 3 months, let's say between now and your next touch point with John, is that in the next 3 months, we're going to know more about that industry. We're going to see more shifts. We're going to read more articles. We're going to be reaching out to more people and therefore having more conversations about the problems, the use cases. We will have won more deals. We will have lost potentially more deals. And so we're always learning from everything that will then allow us to impact our prospects moving forward. And this is what I love about CRMs and about capturing intel and capturing information, because it means that we can always come back to it. So regardless of the industry, and you can still apply these rules to every industry, to every business type when you're selling to businesses, because just because you called them today with a great reason, a compelling outcome, doesn't mean they're ready to buy from you. And so don't burn it at that point. Don't just let it drop off a cliff. Schedule it. Build in some cadences, some alerts so that you never need to think about it again. It will automatically come to you. And then when it does, you've got activities, you've got opportunities, you've got ideas that are floating around. And the prompt is, John is currently with ABC Services, considering a move in 18 months or reviewing in 18 months. What do we know about his industry? Have we now got a roundtable that's been scheduled? Do we have a webinar? Do we have a use case that we think may be relevant to send? And so our job then is just sprinkling intel information that will allow us to be able to showcase capability, share our insights, share education, but allow them to build a relationship or an awareness and build trust with us through these touch points. So I hope that's giving you some insights. I hope that's giving you a different way of looking at how you can build out conversations. If you don't have a conversation pipeline today, you may already have one, but you may just not call it that. Then think then about how you can add a conversation pipeline into your CRM, into the way that you interact with opportunities and prospects. And note that whatever happens, every single lead, every single conversation is a maybe or a no for right now. Doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case in the future. And if we don't track it and we don't remind ourselves to reach out, we're always going cold, 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 rather than the more steps we take, the more interactions we make, the warmer, the shorter the sales cycle, the increase of conversion that we're able to see as well. So happy selling. I wish you great luck with your conversation pipeline. As always, be sure to connect with me over on LinkedIn, and happy selling. Thank you for tuning into the Sell Like You podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and be sure to subscribe to never miss another one. A huge thank you to Vitality House for hosting today's recording, and I look forward to being back into your ears soon.